Welcome to Jessie Education Care.
Romeo and Juliet, a detailed retelling. The beautiful Italian city of Verona, torn by a bitter feud between two noble families, the Montagues and the Capulets. Their rivalry has lasted for generations, and the hatred between them affects everyone in the city. The play opens with a violent street brawl between servants of the Montague and Capulet families. Tybalt, a fiery and aggressive Capulet, escalates the fight, but it is stopped by Prince Aeschylus, Verona's ruler. The prince declares that anyone caught fighting again will be sentenced to death. Meanwhile, Romeo Montague is lovesick over a woman named Rossellini, who does not return his love. His cousin Benvolio and friend Mercutio try to cheer him up and convince him to move on. At the same time, Lord Capulet is planning a grand feast. Paris, a wealthy and noble young man, asks for Juliet Capulet's hand in marriage. Juliet's father suggests he wait 2 more years, but Paris can woo her in the meantime. Lady Capulet, Juliet's nurse, encouraged Juliet to consider Paris. Romeo and his friends decide to crash the Capulet feast. Disguised in masks, they hope to see Rossellini. At the feast, however, Romeo spots Juliet and is immediately enchanted. They exchange words and share a kiss, unaware of each other's identities. When Juliet learns Romeo is a Montague, she is dismayed. Romeo, too, is devastated to learn Juliet is a Capulet. Later that night, Romeo sneaks into the Capulet orchard to see Juliet. From her balcony, Juliet unknowingly confesses her love for Romeo. Overhearing her, Romeo reveals himself. Despite the danger of being caught, they confess their mutual love and decide to marry. The next day, Romeo visits Friar Lawrence, a kind and wise priest, to ask for his help. Though initially hesitant, Friar Lawrence agrees to marry them, hoping their union will end the feud. Romeo and Juliet are secretly married in Friar Lawrence's cell. Juliet's nurse helps to arrange their meetings, acting as a messenger between the young lovers. Tybalt, still furious about Romeo crashing the Capulet feast, challenges him to a duel. Romeo, now secretly related to Tybalt by marriage, refuses to fight. Mercutio, Romeo's hot-headed friend, steps in and accepts the challenge. Tybalt kills Mercutio during the fight, and in a fit of rage and grief, Romeo kills Tybalt in retaliation. Realizing the consequences of his actions, Romeo flees. The prince arrives and, instead of sentencing Romeo to death, banishes him from Verona. Juliet is devastated to hear of Tybalt's death and Romeo's banishment. That night, Romeo secretly visits Juliet, and they spend their wedding night together. Juliet's parents, unaware of her secret marriage, arrange for her to marry Paris. Distraught, Juliet seeks help from Friar Lawrence. He devises a plan. Juliet will take a potion that will make her appear dead for 42 hours. She will be placed in the Capulet family tomb, and Romeo will come to take her away when she awakens. Juliet agrees to the plan and drinks the potion the night before her wedding to Paris. The next morning, the Capulets find her lifeless body and believe she has died. They place her in the family tomb. However, Friar Lawrence's message explaining the plan fails to reach Romeo. Instead, Romeo hears from his servant Balthasar that Juliet is dead. Heartbroken, Romeo decides to return to Verona to see her one last time. Romeo buys poison from an apothecary and heads to Juliet's tomb. There, he encounters Paris, who has come to mourn Juliet. Believing Romeo has come to desecrate the tomb, Paris confronts him. They fight, and Romeo kills Paris. Romeo enters the tomb and finds Juliet's lifeless body. Overcome with grief, he drinks the poison and dies beside her. Moments later, Juliet awakens and sees Romeo dead. Friar Lawrence arrives too late and urges Juliet to leave with him, but she refuses. Overwhelmed with despair, Juliet takes Romeo's dagger and ends her life. The deaths of Romeo and Juliet bring an end to the feud. The Montagues and Capulets, stricken with guilt and sorrow, agree to reconcile. They vow to honor Romeo and Juliet's love with golden statues, but their peace comes at a heavy cost. The play closes with the prince's somber reflection, for never was a story of more woe than this of Juliet and her Romeo.